I came home expecting quiet. Instead, I came home to an absence so loud it knocked the air out of my chest. The century-old barn my grandfather built was gone erased while I was away, and the HOA had the nerve to bill me for the destruction they caused. I still remember the way my tires crunched on the gravel driveway, the sound familiar, comforting. Until it wasn't. Something was wrong. The skyline looked too open, too clean. Where weathered wood should have been cutting the horizon, there was nothing but empty sky and flattened dirt. At first, my brain refused to accept it. I actually parked, got out of my truck, and stood there thinking maybe I was disoriented from travel. But no, the barn was gone. Not damaged, not repaired. Gone. Scraped off my land like it had never mattered. That barn wasn't just some structure. It had stood there for over 100 years. My grandfather built it with his own hands. My father patched its roof. I learned how to drive a tractor there. It was history, family permanence, and someone decided it was an eyesore. I'd been away for months on federal assignment, long days, sealed rooms, decisions that weighed on lives I'd never meet. All I wanted was to come home and breathe. Instead, I stood in dust and tire tracks, feeling something cold spread through my chest. Neighbors peeked through blinds. I could feel their eyes, their silence heavier than any apology. They knew what happened. Every single one of them did. Karen Lockwood made sure of that. Karen was the HOA president, self-appointed queen of clipboards and compliance letters. Mid-50s, perfectly highlighted hair, always dressed like she was headed to a meeting she didn't actually have authority over. She treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom, enforcing standards that changed depending on her mood. She'd been obsessed with my barn from the day she moved in. Called it rustic, then outdated, then unsafe, then finally unacceptable. Later that afternoon, as if on cue, her SUV rolled up my driveway like she owned it. She stepped out, smiling, clipboard in hand, heels sinking slightly into the dirt where my barn used to stand. She didn't offer condolences. She didn't even ask if I was okay. She handed me a violation notice and started talking fast, rehearsed smug about updated appearance guidelines, emergency action authority, and how the HOA had done me a favor by cleaning things up. Then she told me I owed them for demolition costs. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't give her what she wanted. I just stood there silent, letting her talk herself into confidence. People like Karen feed on reactions. Take that away, and they start to crack. Her smile faltered when I said nothing. She left irritated, probably convinced she'd won. That night I sat alone at my kitchen table, staring at the notice she left behind. Something about it nagged at me. The dates were off. The statute cited didn't apply. The signature block looked sloppy. I told myself I was overthinking it, that maybe grief was making me paranoid. I'd spent my career enforcing law, not HOA bylaws. Maybe this was just how things worked now. And that's when the doubt crept in. I wondered if I'd made a mistake leaving for so long, if I should have fought harder earlier, if holding on to that barn was selfish. For a moment, just a moment, I considered letting it go, rebuilding quietly, moving on, avoiding the fight. But sleep wouldn't come, so I opened my laptop. I pulled every HOA email I'd ever received, then every bylaw, then county property records, then historical registry documents. What started as curiosity turned into something darker. Karen had no authority to order demolition. None. Not under HOA rules, not under state law, not under county code. The barn was registered as a historical structure. Demolishing it required multiple approvals she never sought. Then I found the emails, an internal chain between Karen and 2 board members dated while I was away. She called my barn an ugly relic. She bragged about taking advantage of my absence. One line froze me in place. Perfect time to deal with it before the judge lady comes back and throws a fit. That was the moment everything inside me went still. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't negligence. It was targeted, calculated. She thought I was powerless because I wasn't there. She thought silence meant weakness. By sunrise, I had folders of evidence. Photos, timestamps, forged documents, financial irregularities, unauthorized fines, closed-door votes that were supposed to be public, HOA funds misused for personal projects. It was rot-deep systemic rot, and Karen was right at the center of it. Still, I hesitated. There was a moment sitting there with cold coffee and tired eyes where I felt the weight of it all. I was exhausted. I asked myself if I really wanted to pull this thread, if exposing it would make life harder, uglier, if it would be easier to walk away. That's when my phone buzzed. A neighbor I barely knew sent a message, then another, then another. Quiet people, afraid people. They told me Karen was bragging, laughing, calling the barn an eyesore she finally got rid of. Someone sent screenshots. Someone else apologized for not speaking up sooner. Fear had kept them quiet, but now they saw a crack. That was my reason to stand up. I documented everything, filed reports with the county inspector, contacted the Historical Preservation Board, submitted evidence the way I always did, clean, precise, undeniable. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I let the law do what it does best when it's given the truth. The response was swift. The county inspector arrived first, took one look at the site and shut down all HOA projects on the spot. The Preservation Board followed, furious that a protected structure had been misrepresented. Then the state attorney's office opened an investigation. Forgery, property destruction, abuse of administrative power. Karen had crossed lines that couldn't be explained away. The neighborhood changed overnight. People who used to avoid eye contact started waving. Residents lined up to give statements. Old complaints resurfaced. Screenshots appeared. Once fear breaks, it doesn't come back quietly. Karen tried to call an emergency HOA meeting to clarify misinformation. Only 3 people showed up. 2 were reporters. The real confrontation came days later when Karen showed up at my property unannounced, red-faced, shouting about vendettas and overreactions. She waved her clipboard like a shield, accusing me of ruining the community. I stood there calm while officials arrived behind her. Papers were served. Her authority evaporated in real time. I didn't have to say a word. She was removed as HOA president that week. Charges followed. Restitution orders. A full audit. The HOA was placed under oversight. Karen lost everything she'd built her power on. Her house went into foreclosure before the year ended. The court ordered compensation far beyond what she imagined, triple damages under historical protection laws. I rebuilt the barn slowly, carefully, with salvaged wood and new beams side by side. Neighbors helped. People who had once been silent stood on my land reclaiming something that had been stolen from all of us. I never confronted Karen again. I didn't need to. She believed authority came from intimidation. I reminded her it comes from accountability. And the lesson is simple: silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the sound of justice getting ready to speak.